what if the things that you think are best practices are actually keeping you just above broke? Maybe you are bedazzling that anchor that is actually holding you down. I've been an entrepreneur for 20 plus years. And for the first 10, I was a broke entrepreneur. Then I spent a few years just getting by. And then when I hit that breakthrough, I realized that a lot of the things that we tell ourselves is good business practice is actually what is keeping us just above broke. Does my story sound familiar to you? Have you been in that space where you keep working harder and harder and harder and you just don't seem to get over the hump, but you always feel like you're really close? If you can relate, I would love to hear your story in the comments below, because we've all been there, and I think we need to sometimes rally together and support each other as we make these big changes and move into actually creating a profitable, thriving business that someday we'll be able to sell for 8 figures. So here they are. This is my personal list of the behaviors that I see business owners making that honestly keeps them just above broke. So number 1 is thinking that people are buying you. And I hear this so often. People will say things like, but I can't not be on the sales calls because people want to buy from me. But I can't not be the one doing fulfillment because when people buy, a contract with us, they're buying it from me. They're buying me. As long as you believe that to be true, that will always be true. And people won't want to work with your team and they won't want to talk with anyone else. And you will forever be the slave in your business who cannot get to that point of financial freedom and independence. So yes, it's true. And the reason it's true is because you have made it true. Why do we do that? It feeds the ego. It makes us feel really important and really good that everybody wants us and everybody loves us. And you can't go on vacation. You can't get sick. You can't take a sabbatical. You truly have tied yourself down and you will never reach the point of financial freedom. Do you think that anybody buying a Tesla is like, I personally need to work with Elon Musk? I think most people buying a Tesla are doing it because they don't have to personally work with Elon Musk, right? Okay, here is the next myth that we believe that makes us just above broke. It's the idea that success comes from working harder, that we just have to work harder and we just have to work harder and we just have to work harder. And the reality is you're probably already working hard. You're probably already working harder than is good for you. And you don't have more to give. And when we tie growth to working hard, we immediately put a glass ceiling on our business because the reality is there's only so many hours in the day. There's only so much work that you can put in. And once you get beyond that point, there is nothing else for you to offer. So we have to change this. And the new belief that we can replace it with is that working smarter and working more strategic is what creates growth and success and profits. Are any of you feeling a little personally attacked by this? Don't worry, we all feel this way. We've all been through this process. So here's my third habit that keeps us just above broke. It's making decisions based on what you have today instead of what you want tomorrow. And I've done this. When I launched my agency, this was the biggest point of friction between my business partner and I, was that I was trying to make decisions based on what we had today. We have this many clients. It doesn't make sense for us to have more employees than we need to fulfill on what we have today. And instead, he was focusing on this is what we're building and where we're going. And so we need to make decisions based on where we want to be a year from now. And it was such a different process for me. But here's what happened. We made the commitment to each other from the get-go that we were willing to lose money for 6 months. If at the end of that 6 months, we could come out having learned all the lessons that we would have learned in 2 years and generating the profits and revenues that it would take most companies to get to. And that is exactly where we ended. So we made the decision based on where we wanted to go. We wanted to accelerate growth. That was the primary objective. We wanted to learn all the lessons about running a marketing agency and prove if our thesis was true. And so for the first 6 months, we made all the decisions that made no sense for where we were at, but they made perfect sense for where we wanted to go, and we hit the mark. Here is the next habit that we do as business owners that keeps us just above broke. It's overvaluing yourself or your assets or your contribution. This is where If you were to survey a business and you were to ask everybody in there, what did they contribute to the company's success? Like if you were to say, okay, here was our revenue, what did you personally contribute towards that company's revenue? That number across the board would never line up with what the company actually does with sales. We go into business and we think that we are it. We think that we are moving things forward. And when you do that, two things happen. Number one is you create an owner-dependent business where everything has to run through you. And number two, you devalue your employees and your team members, and you don't ever get to the magic of what they can bring to the table. Businesses grow through teams. That is how they grow. There is not a single $1 million or $1 billion company out there that is run by only one person. There's always a team behind it. And you've got to be able to tap into the talent of that team, which requires that you set your ego down and you look around you and you see who is brilliant and who is great and give them a chance to shine. Now, there's a flip side to this coin as well, which is another way you keep yourself just above broke is by undervaluing yourself, undervaluing your assets, and undervaluing your contribution. Because you are probably really brilliant at something. There is a magic secret sauce that you bring to your business. And sometimes it's called your earned secret. Sometimes it's called your zone of genius. But it's the thing that you do that brings the most value to the business. And what we sometimes do is we undervalue our time. Well, what does that look like? That looks like you being on Canva designing social media graphics because you didn't like the one that was sent to you. That looks like you being the copywriter and the landing page designer because you don't want to spend the money to pay someone in the Philippines to do it. That looks like you being the person who has to organize the office and clean up because nobody else wants to do it, but it needs to be done. That's you undervaluing yourself as a business owner. These are the business owner habits that keep you just above broke. I am sure that there are some of these that you have caught yourself doing in the past. I hope, because otherwise I'm alone. I have done every single one of these. So no shame, no judgment. It's just time for us to start changing and start building better habits. So let's shift gears and let's focus on the habits that actually create wealth and that create abundance and that help us step into that space of being a 7 or an 8-figure business owner. So let's start with that right now. Let's drop down below in the comments one thing that you are currently doing that you should not be doing and you could take off your plate. Tell us what it is, and we will cheer you on as you make that delegation happen. So I gave you 5 things that are keeping you broke. Let's give you the 5 that are going to drastically accelerate your wealth. Number 1 is taking calculated risks. I'm not saying you should go jump off a cliff, but I am saying that if there is a beautiful cliff that has a beautiful blue lagoon below, then you need to do it scared and just take the plunge. And I find so many small business owners that are like, but I can't risk that. I can't risk that. I get it. Your business is what feeds your family. Your business is what sends kids to college. Your business is providing your retirement. But if you're protecting and you're being safe, you are not going to be able to get over that hump because growth happens when you take risks. And big growth happens when you take big risks. So literally, like, buckle on your courage belt and get ready to be brave because the big wins happen after the big risks. Number 2, you have got to spend time with people who are already at the next level. If you are spending time with people who are not business owners and entrepreneurs, they give you terrible advice. If you're spending time with people who are at your same place in business that are experiencing your same problems and your same challenges, they give you advice that is going to create results that are similar to what they already have. If you are wanting massive growth, you need to spend time with people who have done it. People who have achieved that next level. They've taken the big risks. They've made the big moves. They know the things that you don't even know you need to ask about. And when you're in those types of conversations, you just pick up on new language and new ideas and new perspectives. If you want growth, you got to train your brain to go there before your mind creates the reality in front of you. Number 3 is probably my personal favorite. This is something that I do to trick clients into massive growth. And I almost don't want to tell it to you because I love doing this in an actual exercise. But what we do is we plan 10 years. So we look at it and we say, okay, where do you want to be in 10 years? What do you want to be doing? What's the numbers you want to be hitting on the scoreboard? Tell me all of the initiatives that you want to have. and we go through, we do a really thorough 10-year forecasting plan. I say, great, now you have to do it in 3. What stands between you and having that? And all of a sudden, it gets real and it gets very clear on what are the gaps inside of their business. So that is my advice to you. Do that exercise. Forecast 10 years and then tell yourself you have to accomplish it in 3, and you will get really clearly focused on what you need to stop doing, on what gaps you have in terms of education, knowledge, resources, people, and you will get really specific on where you should be spending your time. It's such a fun exercise to do. So this isn't something that you have to do all the time. The way that I do this is I do it as a big event. Like, this is our starting point. And then what we do is we create 90-day sprints. And so for 90 days, we say, okay, this is what we're focusing on, and this is how it's going to move us towards the goal. And then we do another 90 days of this is what we're going to focus on, and then we move it towards the goal. And at each 90-day increment, we're looking at that 10-year, 3-year plan, and we're figuring out what is the most important thing that needs to happen next in order to get us there in that 3-year timeline. When you do this, everyone in your company gets aligned to the vision of where you're going, and you start to have higher levels of buy-in and higher levels of excitement. And then what shifts is you now have all this momentum around you, and you can't be the bottleneck. It's like the force of your team and everyone is pushing to the point where you've got to get out of the way, and you've got to be willing to grow and to move fast. Otherwise, you're going to kill the momentum. And it's such a fun process to go through when you start to actually watch your business and go, oh, I always felt like I was dragging everyone along. Now I feel like they are pushing me forward. It feels so much better. I know I said number 3 was my favorite, but number 4 is also a real contender in terms of who's the favorite. I want you to shift into a finding money attitude versus a making money attitude. When you have a making money attitude, you feel like I can't do that until I make the money. I have to make the money first and then I can do it. When you have a finding money attitude, which is that I can always find money, you will look at your business differently and you'll figure out, how do I just do the thing that the business needs to do? And then where is the money going to come from becomes the secondary. But you get really, really committed to taking the right next action. Now, this is not a license to spend. This is not you just going out and be like, I got an Amex Gold card and now I can just do whatever I want. We're not talking about that at all. What we're talking about is you looking at your business, creating that 10-year, 3-year action plan, and then saying, for the next 90 days, this is what we're going to do. And if that requires money that you don't currently have, where are you going to get it? Because those actions are the right actions to do. And this will dramatically propel your business forward. I mean, this is something that opens up the door to things like, well, what if I just bought another company and that company solved the problem that my current company has? Where would I find the money to do that? Hint, that is probably going to cost you less money than fixing it on your own. So there's so many options that you open your mind up to as soon as you shift that mindset, and it's so cool. I love this one. Now, if you are debt averse and maybe you are like a Dave Ramsey follower, I just want to point out that your personal finances and your business finances have to operate under different rules. Every successful millionaire, billionaire out there, every business tycoon that you know of has built their business by leveraging other people's money. That is debt. So whether you're looking at investors or you're looking at business loans, lines of credit, you can find the money that you need to grow. And why would you limit your potential? Because you feel like you have to make the money first. That is a set of rules that was designed for employees. They make the money first, and then they decide where the money is getting allocated. As a business owner, you have to give yourself a separate set of rules for your business. Now, if you want to follow Dave Ramsey for your personal, great, go for it. But it is not the best way to build wealth in your business. In fact, it will harm your business and keep it smaller and underperforming for where it could be. All right, number 5, you are the MVP of your business and you need to treat yourself like the MVP of your business. Successful people are religious about their self-care. They take good care of themselves with nutrition and exercise. They pay attention to their mental health. They take vacations. And they do all of these things because they recognize that they are the biggest asset their business has. If you've ever played fantasy sports or maybe you've been a championship athlete, you know that right before the playoffs, they start resting their best players. Why? Because they want their best players to be on when they need them to be on. And too many small business owners are completely depleting themselves, and they're in burnout, and they're overwhelmed, and they're stressed, and they're not sleeping well because they're worried. All of those things are going to block your success. Whereas when you flip that switch and you say, I am the most valuable player on the team. I am the core asset in the business. What would you do to take care of that most important player? And then do those things. You will be happier. You'll be more productive. You'll be more creative. You'll come into your business with a clear, fresh mind, ready to strategize, ready for growth. And you will watch as your business growth just explodes. So now that you know the things that you are doing that are keeping you just above broke, I want you to make a big leap in your business and the way you think about it. I want you to actually go watch the next video, which is how to make your business irresistible to sellers. Because if you have not yet thought the thought that someday you're going to retire and sell your business, today is the day I want you to start thinking that thought. And before you go, make sure that you like, subscribe, and hit the bell notification so you can get notified every time we bring you new, amazing content on how to buy and sell businesses. And if you're like me, you have a lot of entrepreneurs and small business owners in your circle, and maybe you thought of somebody who could also use this video, make sure that you share it with them. I'm sure that they will appreciate it because together we can make business growth so much easier, so much simpler, and so much more enjoyable. So until next time, keep growing, keep building. Let's get you ready for your 8-figure exit.